Alright guys, welcome to the final episode of the main story for Alan Wake. This is Alan Wake episode 6, The Departure. So, episode 6 begins with a flashback of New York 2 years ago. Alan gets out of bed with a hangover and your goal is to get sunglasses and painkillers. You head to the phone in the hall to listen to a message. The message is from Barry telling us you should have your show on your TiVo and tells you Alice was mad because you two partied too hard. You go in the living room to watch your show. It's Alan on a talk show talking about his new book. He talks about killing off his character Alex Casey after 7 years and 6 books. And his next book will be a departure from his usual. Alice arrives with groceries and Alan's very aggressive towards her and says the tour has gotten out of hand. She tells Alan to go back to bed and Alan apologizes and that they should go on vacation, and we fade into present day. Now that we have the clicker, we need to go back to Cauldron Lake and write the end of the story. Alan points a gun at the sheriff and says he needs to do it alone, leaving Barry, the sheriff, and Weaver in the well-lit room. Alan flicked the clicker when we were inside the bunker, and it's now day outside. Alan doesn't know if it's connected, but all he can do is rely on this daylight and get as close as he can. Alan doesn't know if this is real at all, and you enter the car to head to Cauldron Lake. You come across a crash in a tunnel and have to get out. When you do so, you get a flash of Alice falling and Barbara. It's then somehow night, and you are attacked by Taken. Just after you kill them, you find a page on the ground about the darkness waiting to stop Alan from reaching the lake, rather than capture Alan, to write the story's end. You find a car just up ahead and start driving to the lake. You come across an old motel and go inside to find a paper on the front desk detailing Agent Nightingale staying here, and that his room was number 2. You enter the room to find a lot of pictures of everyone in town. All the other rooms are locked, so with that you get back in the car and keep driving. You then come across a bridge with a lot of crashed cars and have to get out and head through on foot. After fighting a lot of floating objects, you finally get across the bridge and back into the river. After dodging Taken in a possessed monster truck, you have to get out of the car again as the road is blocked by an accident. You're attacked by a lot of Taken as you head through a tunnel. In the tunnel you find a page detailing the dark presence bringing up everything from the lake has claimed over the last few decades, and throwing it everywhere. You find another car and keep heading to the lake. You end up in a salvage yard and have to enter the buildings to open the gate as it's locked. Inside you fight a couple of Taken and get the gate open again. You head back in the car and head down the road. You find a page detailing Zane doing a final dive in his suit with Barbara in his arms. And he stepped off the dock into the dark water, sinking. A pinprick of light sending towards the bottom that never comes. So I think this means Zane will end up being the one to kill the darkness, or at least put it to sleep. But that doesn't happen in this episode. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that whole thing, to be honest. Because, I'm gonna say this now. The episode did not have Zane do anything with Barbara. Episode 6 had nothing to do with Zane attacking the darkness in any kind of way. So I don't know exactly what is gonna happen unless it's the second DLC, because I've already played the first DLC and Zane was not in that first DLC like at all. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Sorry. You then turn on a generator just next to the page to open the way out of the salvage yard again, and you are attacked by a bulldozer. After defeating that, you get back in the car and drive down the road more. You end up in a ghost town and see a flash of Barbara saying she will never give you Alice back. You then are attacked by a bunch of Taken, but there's a spotlight and you use that to deal with them and keep on going. You find a page talking about Alan being in the dark place and him being able to sense the story of the manuscript in the air and all the words floating around him. You then you can see mirrors peek in the distance and find a minecart and get in it and ride down the tracks. On the way you're attacked by crows, but fire flare at them. You end up in another ghost town and turn on a generator to head up an elevator. At the top of the elevator, you find a page. Sorry.
I'd written myself a way through this place in the
I
manuscript.
lost my spot.
I followed the idea of a path.
At the top of the elevator, you find a page detailing the way through the dark place and details Alan following the idea of a path to find the cabin. He willed the cabin, and it was real. You get a flash of Barbara again that tells you to turn back now and blocks your path with a bunch of objects. You fire flares and use flashbangs, and it clears the path. Now you face the darkness tornado and have to fight it. You get to the center of it and fire flares at it, and then the giant meteorite shows up. Alan drops the flare gun and runs to the ledge where the island would be with the clicker in hand, and Alan dives into the water. He then wakes up next to Alice. She tells him you're having bad dreams. She says everything's fine. You're in your house in New York. And Alan says, no, it wasn't a dream. And then her voice becomes distorted and Alan yells to turn the light on. She says, there's no lights, go back to bed. You see darkness outside the windows. You ask Alice where's the clicker, what'd she do with it. She says you're not making sense and to come back to bed. You head down the hallway to find the clicker on the coffee table. Alice shows up in front of you in the hallway telling you you're scaring her and do you need pills. You go around her to find the clicker on the coffee table. Alice and Barbara say you need to go back to bed. You grab the clicker and flick it, and Thomas Zane appears in his light suit. He then tells you to go to the cabin and that it has no heart, it's filled with darkness, and you must fill its heart with light. You see a version of Alan, and Thomas says it's Mr. Scratch, and your friends will meet him when you're gone, and says to use the clicker. You are surrounded by words in darkness. When you shine a light at the word, that object appears. You see the word Alice flash, and then it disappears. He then finally makes it to the cabin. You enter the cabin, and you see Barbara with a hole in her back, saying now you'll never get her back, and that she's much older than you. That Barbara's much older than him. The darkness. She then says she'll find somebody else's face to wear and somebody else to dream her back awake, and then Alan hugs her, making her vanish, and a light appears inside the cabin. Alan then, at the typewriter, says he's feeling Alice's presence. He then says he knows how to write the end of the departure. He says there's light and darkness, cause and effect, there's guilt and atonement, but the scales always need to be balanced. You then see Alan watching Alice fall into the water just like episode 1, and Alan diving in. When you see the sky move as if days are passing by. Out of the lake you then see Alice start to swim out of the lake. She gets on shore and is coughing and freezing. She falls over and says Alan, but he's nowhere to be found. You're looking over the town, and everything seems to be back to normal, with Deerfest just starting. You see all the characters we have known throughout the story celebrating at Deerfest, but now Rose stands looking disturbed, holding a lamp, and you see Nightingale in a window behind her. This may mean Rose is going to replace Weaver in that kind of role of trying to keep the darkness at bay. So Rose might come back in Alan Wake 2. We'll have to wait and see. You then see Alan say it's not a lake, it's an ocean, and hear Alice's voice saying, Alan, wake up, and then the credits roll. So, that is the end of Alan Wake, the main story. I've already done the first DLC, and I will say, the DLC kind of sucks. At least the first one. It was kind of just whatever. I will also say, too, that I didn't really enjoy the finale of this game, to be honest. And it's mainly because there's a lot of parts, particularly in this episode and in the first DLC, where there's sections where combat is just so needlessly hard for no reason, because there's just the sheer amount of enemies around is ridiculous. Like, it's not even like a resource thing, it's just there's so many of them. And it takes so long to do anything because you have to shine light and use flares and flashbangs to do anything anyway. So the gameplay wise, this episode annoyed me. I got very mad like halfway through. It was rough. And then story wise too, I don't know. I expected more from the finale but there just wasn't anything there story-wise. It ended very predictable, I guess. I mean, I still don't know if Alice is alive because she came out of the lake, yeah, and the credits rolled, but from what I've heard, she's still dead. So I don't know if we find out more in Alan Wake 2 or in that second DLC, but the first DLC doesn't talk about it. So I don't know. But yeah, this was a shorter episode. This episode was about the same length as the first episode, which was the shortest episode. So I think the first episode was the shortest. This was about the same length though. This was only about an hour and a half. And it was mainly just driving, to be honest. There wasn't, like, there was very little story segments for this last episode. I don't know why. It was weird, because the game was really good, and the ending was good. It was predictable, but it was good. I don't know. I expected something different. I didn't expect it to be so simple, you know. I expected it to be a little more complex, and it just wasn't, which is fine. It is what it is. Anyway, so I'm doing the DLCs right now. I already wrote the script for the first DLC. I'm gonna be filming that just after this one. So we got that, and then the second DLC. And then I'm gonna play through Sherlock Holmes The Awakened. I don't know if I'm gonna make a video on it, to be honest. I'm gonna platinum it right after I beat it, cause Sherlock Awakened, the platinum is like an extra 2 hours of gameplay, and there's no missable trophies. So I'll probably platinum it and then immediately just make a plat video on it. And then I will come back to Alan Wake at some point and platinum it, but I need to wait at least a few weeks so that Nightmare isn't obnoxious, because I don't like repetition at all, so I can't go through the game and play Nightmare again immediately. I can't do that, especially games like this where it's so story focused. I can't immediately play through it again. I'll wait a few weeks though and try to do it again. But so we got the 2 DLCs. I'm gonna do the plat video for Sherlock Holmes The Awakened. That'll be in like 2 weeks after the last or it'll be like a week or 2 after the last DLC video. And then after that we'll start Alan Wake 2. So I'm trying to keep a schedule, even though I'm still not doing like normal playthrough uploads. So we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Alan Wake. Be sure to look at the DLC episodes as well. And then I'm going to try to do a compilation of all of them as one long video. I don't know how I'm going to do that though, because I only have access to Share Factory and only lets you do 80 minutes or 60 minutes. So I'm hoping that I can download them from YouTube onto my phone and it doesn't compress it a shit ton, and then I can just use a video editor on my phone. But I don't know, so we'll see. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want to see on the channel in the future. And I will see you guys very soon with the DLCs. Stay safe out there, and peace out, guys.